In 1945, an architect named Hassan Fathi stood in a village outside Luxor, Egypt, and watched a family move into a house he had built from the earth beneath their feet. Outside, the August temperature was touching 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside, it was 68. No electricity, no mechanical system of any kind. Fathi spent the next 40 years trying to tell the world what he had found. The world's construction industry spent the same 40 years making sure nobody listened. This is a house that never gets hot, and the reason you have probably never heard of it has nothing to do with whether it works. The technique is called rammed earth. In most of the United States, you need a lawyer and an engineer just to attempt it. The reason has nothing to do with safety. So, what exactly is rammed earth and how does compacted dirt become a wall that outperforms concrete? You start with the subsoil beneath your property, not topsoil, the raw mineral earth below it. Test it for clay content. Somewhere between 15 and 30% is ideal. Mix it with gravel and a little sand. Dampen it to the moisture level of a wrung-out sponge and pour it into a temporary form the same way you would pour concrete. Then compact it in layers. Each one about 4 inches before compression. Each one rammed down to roughly 2 1/2. The form comes off. The wall stands. No curing time, no kiln, no chemical process. The compression creates the finished rammed earth wall runs between 18 and 30 inches thick and achieves a compressive strength of up to 1,000 pounds per square inch, stronger than standard residential concrete block. The material cost using soil excavated on site runs roughly $4 per square foot. A conventional timber-framed wall costs between $20 and $35 per square foot before insulation. A wall 6 to 8 times cheaper than what every building code in America was written to protect. The oldest surviving sections of the Great Wall of China are rammed earth. They have been standing for 2,000 years. The Alhambra Palace in Granada, rammed earth. A 19-meter watchtower in Morocco built without a single engineer has been standing for centuries. These are not curiosities. They are load tests running in real time. If walls built without engineering have been standing for 2,000 years, what are they doing to the temperature of the air inside them? It absorbs it and releases it on a delay that turns the wall into a climate system. A rammed earth wall 24 inches thick has a thermal mass of roughly 50 pounds per square foot. That mass absorbs solar heat so slowly that the temperature wave moving through it takes 10 to 14 hours to reach the interior surface. In a hot climate, the peak of the day's heat does not arrive inside the house until after midnight when the outside air is already cooled. The wall discharges that warmth into the night and resets before morning. Come morning, the process reverses. Cool night air charges the exterior mass from outside. By the time afternoon heat peaks again, the interior wall surface is still releasing coolness absorbed 12 hours earlier. The house stays ahead of the outdoor temperature in both directions automatically with no controls, no power supply, and no monthly bill for the entire life of the building. The average American household spent $2,500 on cooling alone in 2024. A rammed earth household in the same climate spent zero. Not less, zero. Every year for as long as the walls stand. The University of Bath in England monitored a rammed earth structure across 9 years of occupancy, including winters that dropped to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The interior maintained a 68 degrees average without mechanical heating for the entire period. 9 years of data published through the UK Green Building Council. It has never been cited in a US Building Code update proceeding. 9 years of monitored performance, published, peer-reviewed, ignored. Who decides what the building code reads and what do they build their business models around? Adobe was buried by legislative capture. Rammed earth was buried differently and in some ways more completely. Nobody had to write a law against it. Nobody had to draft a code amendment or lobby a committee. All that was required was for the architecture schools to leave it out of the curriculum. And that is exactly what happened. The American Institute of Architects is the body that accredits architecture schools and sets professional standards across the United States. It did not include rammed earth in its core curriculum until 2019. Every architect licensed before that year, every one of the approximately 115,000 licensed architects currently practicing in the United States graduated without being taught that the cheapest load-bearing wall system in history exists. They were extensively trained in steel, concrete, and engineered timber. The companies that produce steel, concrete, and engineered timber fund the continuing education programs through which architects maintain their licenses. That is not a conspiracy. That is a curriculum. The effect is self-perpetuating in a way that no law could replicate. If no architect knows about rammed earth, no architect specifies it. If no architect specifies it, no contractor learns to build it. If no contractor builds it, no building department ever processes an application. If no building department ever processes an application, no case law develops, no inspector training gets written, no insurance product gets created. The silence feeds itself without anyone having to maintain it. The knowledge does not get suppressed. It just never gets transmitted. Think about what that means in practice. Somewhere in your county today, there is a building department with the authority to approve a rammed earth structure under an alternative materials pathway. The examiner sitting at that desk has a degree from an accredited architecture or engineering school. In almost every case, rammed earth was not in the textbook. The material that has been heating and cooling human beings for 2,000 years is simply not in their frame of reference. You would not be fighting a bureaucrat who knows what rammed earth is and has decided to block it. You would be explaining it from scratch to someone who has genuinely never encountered it. That is a harder wall to climb than any regulation. If the silence was that complete, what finally broke it? Australia wrote rammed earth into its national building standards in 2002. New Zealand followed. Germany established commercial rammed earth construction standards used for public buildings and housing developments. In those countries, it is not a workaround. It is a material with a code pathway, a licensed contractor trade, and an insurance framework. In the United States, if you own the land, supply the labor, and occupy the finished structure, the alternative materials approval does not apply to you. The wall the code was written to prevent is legal today on your own property if you build it yourself. David Easton has been building rammed earth structures in California since 1973. Over 200 projects, including commercial buildings, in one of the most seismically active states in the country. His walls have been tested and occupied through multiple major earthquakes. Not one has failed. California is the state most likely to shake a building to pieces, and not one of his rammed earth walls has cracked or shifted. 200 structures. 50 years. 0 failures. What does one of them feel like from the inside on the worst day of a California summer? It is the second week of August in the Central Valley of California. The thermometer outside reads 107 degrees Fahrenheit. You walk to the front of the house. You step inside and the air does not just feel cooler. It feels heavier, denser. The way air feels inside a stone church or a cellar pressed down by the mass around it. Your skin registers it before your mind does. The interior sits at 71 degrees. You walked in from 107. The walls are 2 feet thick. Run your hand along the surface. It is textured, slightly rough. The compression striations running horizontally across the face. Each one marking a layer poured and rammed before the next. Press your palm flat against it. Cool. The deep stored cool of something that has been absorbing night air for months. There is no thermostat. No unit outside. No vents in the ceiling. There is a house made from the ground. It stands holding 71 degrees against 107 degrees on nothing but mass and physics and time. Outside 107. Inside 71. 36 degrees of separation. No power consumed. No bill issued. No system that can break, wear out, or have its price raised. In 2019, when the American Institute of Architects finally added rammed earth to its accreditation framework, something unusual happened. The continuing education course filled within 48 hours. A waiting list formed. Architects who had been practicing for 20 and 30 years signed up in numbers that surprised the organizers. The demand had always been there. The knowledge just had not been permitted to reach them. The pipeline that followed is still small, but it is moving. Rammed earth firms in California, Arizona, and New Mexico are now receiving inquiries from architects rather than waiting for owner-builders to find them. Commercial projects are being specified. A school building in Tucson, a community center in Santa Fe, a mixed-use development in Marin County where the developer ran the numbers and found that the rammed earth wall system, despite higher labor costs during construction, eliminated the entire mechanical cooling budget for the life of the building. The upfront cost was higher. The lifetime cost was less than half. Hassan Fathi proved that calculation in Egypt in 1945. David Easton has been proving it in California for 50 years. The University of Bath proved it across 9 years of monitored data in England. The calculation has not changed. What is changing slowly is the number of people in positions of institutional authority who have been taught that the calculation exists. Hassan Fathi died in 1989. The 150 homes he built in Upper Egypt are still standing. The conventional concrete housing built beside them has largely been demolished. His book has been translated into 15 languages. It has never been cited in a U.S. building code proceeding. He was right about everything. The material works. The physics has not changed. The only thing standing between a family and a house that cools itself for free is the gap between what the curriculum taught and what the ground has always known. That gap is closing. One architect at a time. One permitted structure at a time. One owner-builder who found the exemption and started digging. If you are ready to be one of them, the knowledge is here. Next on the build guide, there is a construction technique that uses the earth itself as a temperature regulator, costs almost nothing to build, has been legally approved in the U.S. residential code since 1978, and is almost entirely absent from the American housing stock. We're going to show you why it